And you are listening to episode 33 SCW, the wrestling podcast. Hi, my name is Steve from SCW. You are listening to us right now via youtube.com, which is Steve Chats Wrestling, hashtag SCW, the wrestling channel. Please subscribe right now, like and share the video, and leave any comments in the comments below. While you're at it, go and like the Facebook page as well, which is SCW, the wrestling podcast. Hit that in the top of the search engine and hit the like button as well. It's the same name as well on SoundCloud, SCW, the wrestling podcast. Go and hit the follow button now. You can listen to us via there as well. Well, it's episode 33 then of SCW the Wrestling Podcast, and we've got a very special guest that's going to be on this particular podcast. It's a professional wrestler. That's right, we have finally a pro wrestler interviewing on this podcast. It is none other than Jason King, a UK professional wrestler as well. It's a fantastic interview. Now, unfortunately, I'm not involved with this interview. Unfortunately, work has been very busy from my side of things this particular week, so I was unable to attend this interview, but you may recognise George Jones, who's been on many podcasts with me, particularly over the last 32 episodes. So he is going to be conducting the interview with Jason King, and it's a very good interview as well. So make sure to stick around and check out the whole interview. It's a shoot interview as well, so I hope you enjoy it, and I will see you on the other side of this interview. George, take it away.
Hello, good evening, and welcome back to the SCW Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host this evening, George. I'm joined by a very special guest, none other than former LEPWA Academy Champion for over a year, Mr. Jason King. How are you this evening, Jason?
Yeah, I'm very well, mate. How are you?
Very well. Massive week for you in the life of Jason King. You've had a massive match this week. Before we go into sort of your wrestling career and the history of Jason King, tell me a bit more about yourself and your history as a wrestling fan.
As a wrestling fan?
Yeah, how did you sort of get involved what was your first impressions of wrestling? Was you a fan growing up?
Yeah, oh man, God. You know what got me was, me and my brother I remember we were sitting down one day in our front room, and we were watching TV, and my dad comes home from my nan's and says, your aunties take wrestling for you. We knew what wrestling was, but, you know, it was the WWF back then, and we didn't really know, you know, the first thing about it. We just, every kid, every young boy knows what wrestling is, and we just thought, oh, cool, wrestling. They put this on, man. It was WrestleMania 12, I think. The main event, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, right? An hour-long Iron Man. We never said a single word that entire hour. We just sat there. We were fixated to the TV. Never said a single word. I was absolutely blown away by what these guys were doing. I couldn't believe my eyes, man. It was, to me, they were larger than life. You know, and both guys are really only about my size, a little bit bigger than me, but on the screen, in front of all those people, they were larger than life. It was insane. That was my first memory of wrestling. I was hooked, you know, and I couldn't have asked for a better main event either to hook me, because that still stands to me as one of the best matches, top 2 or 3 matches I ever saw my entire life ever, the entire time I've been a wrestling fan. I mean, that match was, oh my God, man, it's as close to perfect as you're ever going to get. So for that to be the first sort of match, that WrestleMania to be the first wrestling event I ever saw as a kid, and that match to be the first main event I saw, I was hooked, man. I was a fan for life.
Yeah, that was a fantastic WrestleMania, clearly headlined by Shawn Michaels beating Bret Hart in the first ever, I would say, Iron Man match that sort of, WrestleMania, if that makes sense. But no, what a fantastic main event. Obviously, what then happened, though, from that point then, was wrestling something you always watched?
Yeah, I wanted to do, I wanted more. After that, man, I needed more. So it was like, asking taping wrestling shows, taping Monday Night Raw, taping SmackDown when it came out. It was, we didn't have any money, so we couldn't go out and buy videos and things, but we could always tape them on TV. So it would be anything we could get our hands on, WCW, WWF as it was back then, anything we could watch. My parents would stay up, if there was a pay-per-view on a Sunday night, my mum would have to stay up to tape it for me on VHS. There was no excuses. There was going to be there was none of this like, it's 4 o'clock in the morning and it finishes. I was like, we'd plead with her, especially when Austin, the Attitude Era began. Again, great time for me to grow up as a wrestling fan. Anybody of our age, of our generation that got to grow up watching the Attitude Era as wrestling fans, I was hooked. There was just there was no coming back from that. Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock. You've never had a better time in wrestling. And I got to be a kid to have my disbelief suspended the entire time that those two were on top. It magical time for wrestling. Magical time for me as a kid. I loved it, man. I couldn't miss a pay-per-view. I couldn't miss anything. Stone Cold Steve Austin, when he wrestled Mick Foley, he went to wrestle Vince McMahon. It was a night that Steve Austin said I could beat Vince McMahon with one hand tied behind my back, right? I'll never forget the day I die. Long Raw, and Patterson and Briscoe and all those guys come out, and McMahon's all jacked up. It's the first time he's ever going to wrestle in a ring, and they tie one hand behind Stone Cold Steve Austin's back, and Mick Foley comes out as Dude Love, and puts the mandible claw on Stone Cold. Man, I'm a kid. I'm crying my eyes out. I'm crying I'm believing all the storylines real, and I'm a massive Stone Cold Steve Austin fan, so I'm crying, thinking it's unfair, and and then at the pay-per-view, I think he wrestles Dude Love, or I think it was Dude Love, and it was something like Gerard Briscoe was the ring announcer, and Pat Patterson rang the bell, and Vince McMahon was referee, so there was no way that Austin could win, against Mick Foley. The odds were so stacked against him, and I told my mum, I said, no matter what happens, you can't go to sleep, you can't go to bed until the match is over. I said, if you go to bed, you need to go back downstairs. This was me at however old I was, 8 or 10, pleading with my mum. I said, you've got to go back downstairs. You've got to watch the match. You've got to wake me up to tell me he wins. I had school the next day, but I couldn't sleep until I knew that Steve Austin was still champion. That's how big it was to me back then, She came upstairs, true to her word, she told me. She said, Jace, she woke me up. I drifted off, I said, yeah. She said, he won, now go to sleep. That's a true story.
That's brilliant. I was going to say, funny enough, that was the first Raw WWE finally beat WCW Monday Nitro in years, funny enough. So, yeah, clearly that was a great time in wrestling. So at what point would you say you wanted to go from being a fan of wrestling into being a professional wrestler? Sort of how old were you when you decided you wanted to do that?
Well, as a teenager, I always loved the idea that I could one day do it. I always thought it would be really cool to... I was always into comedy. I always loved comedy, and I always loved evoking reactions and laughter and humour, and I always had a passion, but I was never a great sportsman. I wasn't like an Olympic level athlete at anything. I always tried hard, but I'm 5'8", and if I don't work out, man, I'm like 11 stone. So I was never going to be the champion rugby player, or I was never a great football player. So none of these sports that I played in school, as much as I loved sport and I tried real hard, I was never going to be like a grade A sportsman. So for me, wrestling was, when I learned, what we know about wrestling now that we didn't know about when we were kids. When I learned that, I was hooked, because I was like, hold on a minute, there's more to this. What, these guys don't necessarily hate each other, or whatever the deal is. I was just kind of like, that was when I realized I wanted to be a wrestler, because I thought, wait a minute, they're performers, they're entertainers, and I thought, well, I can entertain and I can perform. I must have been 16, probably 17 when I started weight training, 17, 18 years old, and it was all for the goal to be a wrestler. I would find a school, and I told myself, no matter what they throw at you, this is what you've got to try. You've got to give it your all and just see what happens. Because we all had that dream when we first started. I'd love to go to WrestleMania and be the WWE champion. But in my mind, I was like, I'd just love to be a wrestler. How cool is that? Just to be a wrestler. Just to say to people, to look somebody in the eye and say, yeah, I'm a wrestler. I just thought, what a cool thing to say, and I don't regret it.
I was gonna say, sort of, how old would you when you sort of realised that what you were seeing wasn't a legitimate shoot? It was sort of something there was somebody behind the curtain creating sort of the magic that you saw in the ring. How old were you when you sort of realised that?
Must have been my teenage years, because everybody started talking about it. And I remember, when it was, again, the Attitude Era time, when I remember it was my kind of age group, it was our era, because the Attitude Era was so popular, 9 million viewers on Raw, it was so popular that I think the audience was so wide, but it was our age group that, as teenagers, all began to realise there was more to this story. All the parents knew already. But, us teenagers coming up watching The Rock and Austin and Triple H and The Undertaker, when these guys are on top, little things so they set The Undertaker alight in a casket, and he comes back a few weeks later. Don't get me wrong, I still got massive goose pimples and I'm still jumping up and down, but you kind of knew then, okay, they're calling him the dead man. you kind of like, as incredibly amazing as that is, and the story is insane, and the goose pimples are real, but you're kind of like, okay, he's not dead, is he? They didn't set him alight, so I think the mind kind of, I think it was the teenage years where the mind, as you mature, you kind of realize, there's a bit more, like you say, behind the curtain to this.
Awesome. That's awesome, sort of to hear. I was going to say, how did you get involved in sort of training then? Sort of, at what point did you how did you find out how to become a wrestler? Did you sort of hear about it, word of mouth? How did you find out?
Very difficult. They say in the 60s and 70s, you needed to know a wrestler or be a wrestler's son, or you were never getting in. And let me tell you something. From where we're from in Exeter, or from where I'm from, Exeter, we 100,000 people. Good God, we're right in the south. And there was no wrestling. And there are guys that say, I've spoken to guys since that wrestled down here, oh yeah, there was, we had a school, and I had a school. And I'm like, no, you didn't. Because if you had a school, I'd have gone. Because it was 7 years ago now. I was 21 when I first started wrestling. And we had a show, Billy Gunn was advertised for a wrestling show at the Exmouth Pavilion. And that was it, man. Like, Billy Gunn, I mean, like, he was, grade A in the Attitude Era. Again, let's go back to the Attitude Era, the most popular time. Billy Gunn was, a megastar. He won the King of the Ring. He was in DX. Yeah. I absolutely could not miss seeing Billy Gunn. There would be absolutely zero way I would miss that. So when we had to go, me, my friend Kev, and my brother Mike, we went down to Exmouth and we went to watch the show. Billy Gunn was there. He came out, man, the loudest applause I've ever heard in my entire life. He came out to like 300, 350, 400 people, but it may as well have been 20,000.
Wow.
When he walked out, it was he had his hands on his ears. He's going, wow, and he's as big as you remembered. I was like, it was the first time I'd ever seen a wrestling show in the southwest of England. I'd never seen anything down here. It was always, I didn't even know there was a British wrestling scene. I had no idea. I literally had no idea there was British wrestling. I just thought it was America. And that you hear about Japan or Mexico, but because I was a young boy, they were so far away to me. The idea of those things were so far to me. I was 17 at the time. I could never even contemplate this idea that wrestling would exist. After that show, we went and spoke to a chap called the UK Kid, who was my first coach, Tom. We just spoke to him about the show and how good it was, and we were massive fans, and said we'd love to train, love to be wrestlers like all young men. What young man doesn't want to be a wrestler? But he just said, I don't have a school at the moment, but keep coming to the shows, and if anything ever comes up, I'll let you know. And a year later, after that, they came back the summer after, and I remember this is a great story. They came back a year later. This is a real good story, actually. And again, me, my mate Kev, and my brother Mike, and Kev says to me, it was a Monday night, and I remember I used to work at Tesco. My shift was 5 p.m., 10 p.m. at Tesco. And I'm walking to work with Kev, and Kev says, I cannot believe, he said, I cannot believe that you're not going to come to watch this wrestling show. He said, who was there that time? Hardcore Holly. He said, I can't believe Hardcore Holly's there. And, it's Billy Gunn again. Sorry, it's Billy Gunn again. He goes, I can't believe you're not going to come and watch Billy Gunn wrestle. Is this, it's like a 10-minute walk from my house to Tesco.
Yeah.
10 minutes. He's like, we're not going to watch this. This is absolute, BS is raring at me. And I, by the time we get to Tesco, I walk through the doors of Tesco. My old employees, if they ever hear this, are going to be like, son of a, you know what? But we get in the doors, and I go into the toilet in Tesco, and I say, right, I'll see you later, Kev. I said, I got to go, man. I got to go to work. It's about 4:45. And after I finish taking a pee, he's looking at the PlayStation games, and I see him. I'm about to walk to clock into work. Nobody's really seen me. And I think, I can't miss this. It just hit me it just hit me. I was like, I can't miss it. I was like, he's right. I walked back through Tesco, back to where the games are. I said, right, I'm leaving. He said, what? I said, I'm off. So I need you to go and tell my boss. I can't remember who my boss was at the time. I can't remember. I said, I need you to go and tell my boss. I think he was called James. So go and tell my boss, James, that I'm sick and that I can't make it to work. And he said, are you serious? I said, damn right I'm serious. I'll call Mike now. So I walk out of Tesco, man. I run through the car park so no one can see me. Kev comes walking up 2 minutes there. Yeah, I told him. He said, you got to call in. And I said, the hell with it. I'm not calling in. I didn't give a rat's ass. So that's me and Kev. Call up Mike. Mike, we're going to watch Billy Gunn. I thought Jay said what? No, let's go. We all go to Exmouth. Now, this is the Monday night, right?
Yeah.
We turn up. I think the show started at 8. We turn up at like 5:30 and we get to Exmouth. I think we got a good time in train or something. We turn up and there's a chap there called T-Bone, who's in the UK at the moment. He was with a guy called Gordy. And they just turned up with a ring. And we said, no, actually, wait a minute. This was, my story's a bit crossed here. Hang on, let me rephrase. This show, the story about Tesco is still accurate, but this was the first time we saw Billy Gunn. Okay, so that was the first time when Billy Gunn first came out, and like it sounded like 20,000 people. That was the first time. Okay, and it was a year later. We went to watch another show, and after the Billy Gunn show, the first one we saw was my latest coach, Dan Walsh. He was wrestling on the show, and we were on the train on the way back from Exmouth, and we saw him, and we were talking to him and getting advice from him and chatting to him, and me and him have discussed since. This is the story of how we met on the train. And he told us, he said, the next time they do a show, make sure you get down there. Make sure you get to the show and ask to help with a ring. So what we did was we turned up one day when we knew they had a show, just randomly. We turned up at like 1 p.m. in the afternoon. And the chap called T-Bone turns up with his mate Gordy, the ring van. And we say to them, we're here to help with the ring. And he's like, what? And he said, we're here to help with the ring. He said, who the hell are you? You know, they're like, what? And we said, Dan Walsh sent us. And he's like, I don't know who Dan Walsh is. And the three of us just kind of stood there, you know. And this Gordy fella's looking at T-Bone, and T-Bone's looking at Gordy. And they said, you ever done ring before? He said, no, but we're quick learners. He said, can you come? Just like that. They said, 5 sets of hands are better than 2. Deal with it. We were in. That was our first time in the wrestling business, right? Set the ring up, got into the show free, got to walk around backstage with all the wrestlers, met the UK kid again, met some American wrestlers, met the local talent, and I remember after that show, we ended up, my mate Kev says to T-Bone, where are you going after this? He said, we've got a show in Bournemouth tomorrow and a show in Portsmouth the day after. And my mate Kev says, can we come with you? Just randomly. Can we come with you? He says, are you serious? He goes, yeah, we'll take the ring down, come with you. He says, sure. So, sure as hell, off the cuff, randomly, no change of clothes, no toothbrush, no nothing. We all take the ring down, jump in the back of the van, all drive to Bournemouth. We will stay in the back of the van for like 3 hours while we drive to Bournemouth, get out, sleep at T-Bone's house, up in wherever the hell it was he worked or lived. Next day, straight to the Bournemouth venue, set the ring up, take the ring down, stay at his house, Portsmouth, take the ring up, take the ring down. We got to watch 3 days of wrestling for free. 3D tour, riding around on the back of a van. The three of us. That's how I broke into wrestling. I was riding around on the back of a van for 3 days with a guy I'd never even met.
Wow, that's some story, isn't it? Just to be able to sort of go. And obviously, Varsity Pro Wrestling was under Tom Jones. Tom Jones, for anybody that doesn't know this listening, he actually trained at the Shawn Michaels Academy. So clearly he had a good pedigree. So you obviously went from being a fan to sort of in with the wrestlers, pretty straightforward. Was that sort of your first sort of exposure of that the business was sort of predetermined, or was you aware of it at that time already?
We knew that before, but that was the first time to see the inner workings, what goes on backstage, if you will. I remember, after that, man, that was it. You were never, ever, ever going to tell me I couldn't be a wrestler after that. I was in. We were paying our dues. We never made a penny. No one ever gave us anything for setting up the ring, taking the ring down. That's how you break in. You show your willingness. We were handing out flyers. We were doing odd jobs, that they needed. If he'd have told us to do merch, we'd have done merch. If he'd have told us to, sell tickets, we'd have sold tickets. We were just happy to be there, man. And I remember after that, we found a school called POW, Professional Organised Wrestling in Brixham. A bit of a real low budget kind of backyard kind of school. At the time, it was ran by Dan Walsh. If he ever hears this, he'll probably admit himself it was not they had no business running a wrestling school back in those days. But I had a young lady who I was with at the time that drove us to Brixham and did a couple of weeks training there, and it was probably maybe 6 months after that. I'd been in the gym real hard. I kept messaging Varsity Pro Wrestling Because like you said just a moment ago, for those that don't know, the UK Kid was trained by Shawn Michaels. To me, this guy was the one that I wanted to train me. I was like, well, if he's short, I watched, let's not forget, my first main event, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart. I watched how good Shawn Michaels was, and I thought, well, hold on a minute, he's an incredible performer. This guy, this UK Kid, was trained by that guy. I want to be trained by that guy. That was a no-brainer. To me, it was a no-brainer. So, I kept emailing him until he finally opened a school. And the travel to Portsmouth was a 300-mile round trip. I paid, I didn't give it. Could have been 900 miles. I was going no matter what. No matter what it cost, no matter what the dedication, no matter what, I was going. I was never not going to be a wrestler. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Never.
It's just amazing, sort of the passion that you had from an early age towards sort of the great sport that is wrestling. Clearly, obviously, you've gone from being a fan now straight into sort of going out your own way to train. So, who was your very first match against, and sort of how long was that into your training that you had a match in front of a crowd?
Well, I'm glad you asked how long that was into my training, because I'm a firm believer that when you run a wrestling school, the guys you train, the trainees, that is what they like to call them. The trainees are a product of your training and of your brand and your school. And I think that we were drilled to everything we did was drilled over and over and over. Like anything you do, you don't get good at something really until you do it over and over and over. And like anything, a sport, a martial art, a bloody anything. Singing a song or writing a book or reading you don't get better until you practice. If it was just shoulder tackles we were doing, then we were practicing shoulder tackles for an hour. If it took an hour, a shoulder tackle is the easiest thing in the world until you overthink it.
Yeah.
Clotheslines, plexus, slams, hitting the ropes. I did more squats than I can count, man. We were at a place where I wrestled for 9 months. Okay? 9 months by a man I still believe to probably be the best coach and probably pound for pound the best wrestler probably in the entire bloody country, to be honest. UK Kid. If he's not the best, he's one of them. He's definitely one of them. And he drilled us, but he drilled us to the point where we were so good. Honestly, if you'd have seen my first match, you'd have never believed it was my first match. So some of the guys that I've seen in the ring, and even some of the guys, some of the quality of the product put out there in comparison to what he did. This is not a massive praise to me. This is a massive praise to him.
Yeah.
The quality that he put on, every match, every performer that he trained. Look at the guys the UK Kid trained. Joe Redman, Chris Andrews, Jason King. He drilled you till it was perfect. I wrestled 9 months, but I wrestled UK Kid in my first match in Exeter in front of 450 people. I was so nervous. Looking back at the whole match now, to think how easy the entire match was in comparison when I think about it now. But I was so nervous back then that he may as well have made it a 40-minute. I think it was something like 8 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
It's 8 to 10 minutes in the ring, including entrance. I was so nervous because it was my first time. I didn't want to mess anything up, and the guy was so smooth in the ring. 10-year pro at that point, 12-year pro, that he just, we got the pop. When I pulled out, my big move, and God, it was incredible. I mean, Bob Holly was backstage, Hardcore Holly, and I recall being the only guy on the bloody card that night. I was the only one. Don't know why, but I was the only one that said to him, "Do you mind watching my match to let me know what you think? How I did." He gave me feedback about my lockup. I remember, I got a good story about how he criticised my lockup. Do you want to hear that?
Yeah, go for it. That'd be fantastic, please.
So we're there, and I say, "Do you mind watching my match? Because it's my first one ever." And I'd love to know I'm nervous as hell, man. This is hardcore Holly. And he's as big and as scary in real life as you think he is. Like, maybe even scarier. I was 21, backstage in the wrestling business, man. He says, "Go on then, man. Good luck." And I'm like, "Thanks. I got to do my thing." He says to me, "Kid," he goes, "You know what a lockup is?" And I said, "Yes, sir. Yeah, I know what a lockup is. Lock up with me, boy." So I do what I believe is a lockup. He literally throws me into a wall, right? into like a bollard in front of everybody. Like, does a collar and elbow tie up, slams me into the wall, breaks, looks at me, and says right to me in front of everybody, "I just made you look like a bitch."
Oh, no.
God, man. I was so scared. I was like, oh God, I've made him mad.
Yeah.
The thing was, he goes on to explain, that's a collar and elbow tie-up. That's a Greco-Roman lock. That's real. He said the first time you interact with a guy in a match often is that lockup. Make that count, is what he said to me. Make that lockup count every match. Snap it in, make it real. If this is the first time you've ever met that opponent in the ring, this is the first time that people are seeing you, make that mean something. I have done ever since. Ever since. Every single match. Every single match. He also told me, for a first go, he said, "Yeah, not bad at all, well done." Oh, man. High heavens I was in. I was on cloud 9. Insanely good. Insanely cool. He actually got me booked again the next night. Because he told the UK kid, he said, "I want to see if he takes on board what I said." He said, "Let him wrestle again tomorrow night." So, I wrestled again the night after. Standing backstage behind the curtain, I remember my generic music, whatever it was. I can't remember, who knows, like some babyface, like, I don't know, like heartthrob tune or something. I don't know what it was. That's playing and I'm backstage, I'm nervous. He comes up to me, "Kid?" I said, "Yes, sir." He puts his hand out, he goes, "Go get him." Gives me a high five. I was just like, hardcore Holly, high five me.
That's awesome. That's really cool, man. It's really cool to sort of hear the feedback you had from him. Did you, during your early days then, did you have any more other involvement with any other sort of really famous wrestlers? Did they ever give you, did you have any good or bad experiences with any other people?
Well, I met Davari. He was cool. Davari was good. Good performer. We met D'Lo Brown. He was cool. He did a seminar. D'Lo Brown's seminar was really good. He's really good. Really underrated. Really gets wrestling. Again, he was hot in the Action Era. You had, there were loads came through. Billy Gunn came through. Who did we have? Because I was
Road Dogg, if I remember correctly.
Road Dogg, yeah, yeah. Road Dogg was there. He was backstage. Road Dogg, yeah. I think he did like a 6-man tag or a tag match or something in Exeter, and I didn't see it because I was backstage. But the fans were telling me, my friends, that apparently he spent the whole time kind of looking the other way and not really. He was like, the match was on, but apparently he was not quite there, if you know what I mean.
Oh, okay. Okay. No, that's interesting just to hear your experiences. So sort of then, you then sort of went from wrestling. You sort of left the business for a short period, if I understand correctly, Jason. Sort of what happened? Did you sort of fall out of love temporarily at wrestling, or did you feel sort of that you just wanted a break from it? What sort of happened before then to the next chapter, Jason?
So I was 9, 10, 11 months at VPW. I wrestled a few matches, and I had a really bad match in not a bad match. You could never have a bad match at VPW, but I had a good match with Rob Holt. But it was what was going on backstage at the time. Just a fallout with the coach. And looking back again now, I was 21 at the time, and I was, I was immature, and and he wasn't the easiest guy to do business with at the best of times, to be fair, looking back and to be honest about him. Nice enough guy, but most people will tell you he had his moments. Tom, he had his moments, all right, when he wanted to be difficult, he could be. And I think we had a fallout, I remember, and I just kind of took my ball and went home. I felt like I'd done more, like I had worked real hard. And when I wrestled in Exeter the second time against Rob, it just felt like I was a complete afterthought. Looking back now, it was my third match ever, and who cares if it was my home city? I am just an afterthought. I was nobody. But at the time, in my mind, I was like, surely he should be using me for this or this or this, and I think that as much as I want to say I got it back then, I didn't. And I worked hard, and I was humble in the sense that we grinded and busted our butts, to get anything. Yeah. I think that maybe looking back, he had told me off about something, and we had a bit of a squabble about it, which I should never know. Why am I squabbling with my coach? He's trained by Shawn Michaels, 10 years in the business. I should have shut my mouth and just took, the verbal lashing and said yes, sir, and took the feedback and gone on. But I thought I knew best back then at 21 years old. So I took my ball, I went home, and I said, the hell with this, I don't want to be a wrestler anyway, and threw a hissy fit and a tantrum. It was the best thing that ever happened to me, to be honest, because it allowed me to do the things in my life outside of wrestling. To be a wrestler, to really succeed in this business, you've got to be a professional, because with social media now being so popular too, you absolutely cannot get away with. I mean, if you look at my social media, I am extremely active on social media, and because it's how I generate business for merchandise, how I generate business for wrestling shows, where I get my promos out there, where I get my potential bookings and things. Back in those days, if social media was as big, and it was only 6-7 years ago, but it wasn't as big as it is now. If it had been, I would have probably said something really dumb and about him or about VPW, and I would have shot myself in the foot and burnt a bridge. And I took time away. While I was away, I went and became a personal trainer, which is something I always wanted to do.
Yeah.
I became a national poker champion, so British poker champion. So I got success elsewhere outside of wrestling that allowed me to learn how to deal with the media.
Yeah.
I worked in an environment, my day job and my evening jobs at weekends, where I was, a door supervisor, where I've got to be a consummate professional. So I was able to pick up life skills before I went back to wrestling. So when I went back, when I was 26, 27, in that time in between, I had picked up skills I needed to succeed, to be the performer, and I think also the man I wanted to be. I had a lot of learning to do. That at 21, I just didn't have it at 21 for what it took to be a wrestler. I just wasn't mature enough, and I wasn't, I didn't have the mindset and the attitude. I mean, hard working, physically they could beat me up, and that was fine, but I just didn't have the mental capacity almost to take this on and take this, serious, So I think maybe leaving at 21 was probably, well, it was undoubtedly one of the best things that ever happened to me in my life, really, because I also left on terms that I didn't like. Didn't want to leave on a squabble and a whinge and a moan. So, that bug to come back was, well, here I am now. It got to me, man, every day for 6 years. I couldn't let it go. I couldn't let it go. I had to go back. So
that's awesome, man. So, sort of, what led you coming back, sort of, into the business then? Sort of, how did that come about? And sort of, what was your first promotion back when you came back?
Okay, so there was no wrestling in the Southwest when I trained at DPW. There wasn't. And again, these guys that say, "Oh, I had this and I had that." No, you didn't, because I lived in Exeter. And if you did, you didn't advertise very bloody well, because I didn't see you, and I was, a mark. Yeah. And you weren't. There was nobody there. So years go by, and I see a poster about a wrestling show in Exeter, or a wrestling company in Exeter called the DWA, headed up by Joe Redmond. And I knew Joe Redmond because I'd met Joe Redmond before years ago. When I left VPW, I was going to go train with the DWA. I'd spoken to Joe Redmond extensively on the phone a couple of times. I'd met up with Joe and we chatted, and I was thinking about going to the DWA. But again, back then, I'm glad I didn't. Nothing against the DWA, great school, great people. I just wasn't mature enough. I needed to mature more before I could take wrestling seriously. So the DWA were around. They were a small deal back then in comparison to what VPW were doing. But that's that. So 2 years went by, or 3 years, and I went and did one training session with the DWA. I just plucked up the courage and said, the hell with it, I'm going to go back and see what I've got left in the tank, see if I still love this. I did love it. It was like a 3-hour session. The coaches were PJ Jones and Darrison Daddy Bainsley, or Marcus Bain, as you might know him. They were the two coaches at the time. It was me and somebody a couple of years younger than me, and a kid was there too. So there was like three of us. We just it was a good session, hard cardio, and it was pretty much what I remember it being. And I remember again at the time thinking like, okay, you could give this a serious go if you want to. And something was stopping me. I felt like, you know what, I'm still not. It's just I'm not there yet. I could feel I wasn't there. That was maybe 3, 4 years, 5 years ago, even maybe 5 years ago, and I started working at my day job now 3.5 years ago, and it was when on the interview into the job actually. So maybe I should thank my current employers for getting me back into wrestling, because in the interview for the job they ask what your passion is, and you've got to write down on your first day when you all get to meet each other. You all write down your hobbies and your passion and what you've done, etc., etc., and a fact about you that people probably wouldn't believe. And I'd written down that I used to be a professional wrestler. And I remember, man, as soon as I said that, I started talking. I used to be a professional wrestler. Everybody in the class, what you were a what? A real wrestler? All these questions and all this, and then like their passion, like a click of a finger, just like that, like ignited my passion. But it was different this time. It was like because I'd been a PT by this point, and it just sort of I had that rush. I was like, they like wrestling, and I don't even think people so much like wrestling as they were just curious about the idea that this guy had been a wrestler. I think it just made them, it was curiosity. Then I got curious about myself, like, well, are you ready now? Took about a whole year or so of telling people at my current employer's position. I do remember telling people all the time, I'll go back. I think I will go back. And I was just, I knew Danny Walsh from the VPW days, and I still had a few of the guys from VPW on social media. And I remember just seeing he put up a post. I've been a poker champion. I just won my poker title. I was doing poker for like a year, traveling around the country, playing poker, high stakes poker all around the country. And I remember I was done with that. They bought me out my contract for a good figure, and money was good and life was good, and I just wanted something else to do. And I was thinking, I need to do something with my time. I like to occupy my time. What's my next goal? What's my next challenge? I've been a personal trainer. I got my doorman's license, which I wanted to do. I've been a poker champion now, and I was just thinking, what can I do next? Well, what's next for me? And I was thinking about going into cage fighting, to be honest. I was thinking about becoming a mixed martial artist, and I'd given that done a few sessions, a few weeks of that, and I was with a good team of guys at Powerhouse Gym, and I was really enjoying it. And I saw Danny Walsh had posted something on Facebook, and whether you believe in fate or not, God knows, but it just posted saying about his school, about his training school in Torquay. And I thought, wow, Torquay, of all places, I was thinking, I go down Torquay all the time to go to the casino. I've been going down to that casino for a year, 18 months. And I was just thinking, there's a wrestling school there? It's like the cogs in the mind started to turn. And I just kind of thought, oh, okay. Well, and then it was like that, convincing myself, that I had to actually convince myself not to go, in the sense that I kind of told myself, well, that would be so cool. But then I was like, nah, you don't want to go. You don't do that no more. Wrestling days are done. And I sent him a message. I just said, I said, what nights do you train? And he said Thursdays. And I used to work till 8 p.m. on a Thursday at the time. And it was like the get out of jail free card I needed, like the excuse I needed in my head, because I was being a coward about the situation. So I was just like, oh, tough, I work Thursdays, never mind. I was like, oh, well, can't go. Thanks anyway. Back to poker. It's easier, And then I remember he messaged me a few weeks later. Oh, we train on Tuesdays now, by the way. And this one time that he said they train on Tuesdays, that week I happened to have like the Thursday night off for some reason. And I thought to myself, well, I could actually go Tuesday and Thursday this week. So I could go like 2 nights.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I was so scared. Sounds ridiculous, but I was so scared to go back. because I was just like, what if things had changed? What if I've got a load of heat for being a prat 7 years ago about something that no one even remember? It wasn't like I didn't even do anything directly. I just left and was like, I don't want to wrestle anymore. Like, no one even cared. But in my mind, it was such a big deal. Like, it was such a big deal what I had done. And I was like, what if I'm blacklisted? All these things that absolutely nobody gave a monkey's about. But when you build something up in your own mind?
Yeah.
I built it up in my mind that, that I would go back and I would not know how to roll, not know how to bump, not know how to hit the ropes, and it would be all, crazy to me, and I'd never know this and this, and I remember going to the venue, and I walked down the stairs. Anybody that listens to this, that has been to the LEP Centre will know when you walk down those first set of steps, and then you go down the second set, it's almost like, if you don't know what you're walking to, it's almost like you're walking into a dungeon. And I walked down the first set, and I ran and kind of jumped into the light, and didn't want to go down the second steps where I could hear people talking. And I was so nervous. And in my mind, it was going to be this massive 20,000 seat arena with 10,000 people watching, and 200 of the best looking athletes in the world were going to be there. And I was like, I'm so out of place. I don't want to do this.
Yeah, of course.
I was there, and I was like, you idiot, get down those stairs now. Stop being a coward. I'm in the mirror, like, literally swearing at myself, telling myself, stop being such a wuss and get your ass down them stairs. And you're supposed to be a tough guy and all that crap that. So in the end, I told myself, look, and this was like 10 minutes too. This took 10 minutes. The guys were literally downstairs, probably had no idea I was here. They probably thought, what's that noise upstairs? They could probably hear me talking. But I was like, it took 10 minutes, and I convinced myself. I said, you're going tonight, and you're going Thursday. And if you go and you can't do it, or you don't have that passion, then fine. But you're paying him 30 quid, because it was 30 quid up front for the first month. I said, you're paying him 30 quid. You're doing these 2 sessions. If you don't like it, or you can't do it, go home. It's done. But never think about wrestling again. I promised myself. Because every day for like years, 3 years, I've been going on about it. Could feel it in my mind every single day. Every day for 3 years. And I promised myself, I said, self, today, this is it. It comes to an end. It comes to a halt now. I walked down the stairs. There was Dan sat on the stairs in this like dingy little building. Not to take a dig at where the centre is, because it's like a dungeon, but it's lush. It's the LEP home, man, and I have a very, very, very special place in my heart for where we trained at LEP and where they still train. Because LEP gave me my platform. But I walked down those stairs. When I see Dan, we shake hands. He says, acting like we're best pals, very welcoming. And I saw Grayson Reeves and Captain Bobcat. I saw both of those guys there. They were there for my first session. Nobody else, just 3 guys, just a coach and 2 students. And I'm looking around thinking, where's the 20,000 people? Where's all the bright lights?
Yeah.
Where's JR? Where's Steve Austin? I had all these visions of Vince McMahon and all these people like judging me, with clipboards. There was nothing. There were just 2 guys, just 2 regular guys that wanted to learn to wrestle like I did. And we did. I remember we hit the ropes, and we did drop down leapfrogs, and we did lots of cardio, lots of basic amateur wrestling drills and things. And I just battered myself. But I'm so thankful, and I've said it many, many times publicly, and I've told them both many times. Grayson Reeves and Captain Bobcat. I'm so thankful and so grateful for those 2 to help me through that first session, because my cardio was nowhere near where it needed to be. Nowhere near. Man, hitting those ropes 10 times, people think, it's easy. Come and hit those ropes 10 times. Not just the rope burn that you get on your back, by the way. Rookie burn, they call it. Rookie burn. Yeah. From where, like, when you hit the ropes very often, I'm telling you, man, until you've done it, you will not believe it. And it's like bumping. If you haven't, if you've never taken a bump where you hit the mat, that's just wood and metal. But people say, there's padding under there. And I think to myself, show me the padding. So, if you haven't taken a bump, the day after that, I was so stiff. But let me tell you something, George.
Yeah.
Going back that day, mate, honestly, that session, after those 2 hours, that was it. I knew that I'd be wrestling again to the day I was dead. They will carry me out of a wrestling ring, I'm sure.
That's an amazing story, man. Just to hear your comeback. How did you sort of go then from coming back into it, almost like a novice again, to becoming a champion? How did that journey transfer, and how did you become sort of the Jason King character?
Good question. So I installed in that academy. I was the one that bought. Despite what others might say, I challenge anybody that wants to discuss it with me anytime, any place, anywhere. I was the one that bought the respect levels that needed to be at that academy. I bought that. And there will be other guys that will say, this son of a so-and-so trying to take credit. No, I'm not taking credit. It's a fact. I was the one that shook everybody's hand first, led by example. I was the one that trained hardest. And that's not a dig at anybody else. They'll tell you, if you ever did a training session with Jason King, you know, I never missed a beat. The stuff I couldn't do, practice again. I can't seem to nip up. I don't know why. You know when you do you know what a nip up is?
I think so. I think I know what you're talking about.
Well, like where The Rock does it, where you're laying on your back and you flip up to a standing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I just can't seem to do it. I don't know what it is. I don't know why, but I can. But that don't mean I didn't try over and over and over. And you know, nobody ever outworked me, ever, because I was adamant that I was coming back to be the best. You know, that I could be. But we brought, you know, and the camaraderie was built. You know, I started the camaraderie there. I was the guy that got everybody, because it used to be 5-10 individuals. I made us a team. I made it so that we were one team. It was a purpose. The coach would tell me what the deal was. He would say, I would ask him, what is the plan of, you know, this place? What is the goal? I want this, I want this, I want this. I would hear that. Then I would say, right, how do I portray that? He didn't know I was doing it, I don't think, you know, looking back. But I would ask him questions. But if he ever hears this, he'll look back now and go, oh, that makes sense. Is that why he was asking? But I would then portray that message to all the boys, all the younger lads, you know? It came to a point where you get 10, 15 guys all pushing each other through. We were a team, we were a unit. You know, we were bad, man. We busted we hauled ass and we worked hard. And because I think he recognized me quite quickly because I was my passion and my energy levels.
Yeah.
I'm very, like now, I talk so much, you know, as you can probably tell.
Yeah.
I'm just the same when wrestling. And boom, 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 never stop, always on the go. And I think he saw something in me where he thought, you know, this guy's got something. We didn't really know what I had at such an early stage. We didn't really know what it was I had, but I had something. There was something there. We just needed to tailor to see what it was. But we also needed to let it manifest and let it grow. So without too much mothering and fathering from my coach, and I mean that in the most respectful way, because he taught me how to you know, he gave me a platform to be me and let it grow. And he advised me along the way where I needed to make things tighter and maybe where I needed to practice something more. But for the most part, I had enough free roam to let me grow, to let me see what worked for me. And the original idea for the Jason King character was to be a chav. Was to be a chav that wore like a Burberry hat and came out with like a can of Stella and a Henry Lloyd top on.
Wow,
that was the original plan. But
unbelievable! What a difference for people who don't know that haven't seen Jason's work. Jason now has very much got a bit of a Jerry the King Lawler type feel to his character. Very much arrogant. He plays the tweener very, very well. Probably one of the most charismatic people in LEP. Jason, obviously you had the belt for well over a year. Where were you when you were told you were going to win the belt? And was it ever the plans for you to hold the belt for so long?
Oh man, well, I'd come away from VPW with the mindset that it was a privilege and a pleasure and an honor to wrestle. It was an honor, you know. So for me to get a match would have been I assumed I'd be waiting another 9 months. Well, maybe not 9 months. I told myself, give yourself 6 months to get back into the swing of it, and you'll be okay, and you'll probably be wrestling again. Well, I'd actually done 1 week's training. So I trained on the Tuesday, trained on the Thursday, and then done a seminar with TNA superstar Bram on the Sunday. At that point, I've literally done 2 training sessions, so that's 4 hours and 1 seminar, okay? That's all I've done in probably, by that point, 3-4 years. That's all I've done.
Wow.
All right? At that point. Now, at that point, what happened next is crazy, okay? It went from 0 to, like, I don't know what you'd call it. This is how fast it happened, right?
Yeah.
2 training sessions. So Tuesday, training session. Thursday, training session. Sunday, Bram seminar. Wednesday of the next week, message from a promoter saying he wants me to work for him. And I was like, what? Wow. I was just like, pardon? what just happened? So, message from a promoter saying I'd been recommended to work for him. And I thought, excellent. Well, that was a great, incredible start. Wonderful piece of news. Wrestling show announced by LEP for that same weekend. The boss says, everybody come down, I want you all there to help out, etc., etc. And I turned up in trackies, a pair of Adidas trackies and a red pair of night trainers. Those that see me, waltzing around at most wrestling shows and things will see, they'll know the night trainers I mean. It's a red pair that I wear. I've got a red pair of night trainers that I'm quite well known for wearing, because they stand out because they're bright red. Well, I was wearing them and a pair of Adidas trackies. I turned up thinking I'd be doing ring crew or thinking that I'd be doing anything but competing. I had actually, I had done 2 sessions in a seminar. No one's ever going to put me to wrestle. But it was an academy show, and they put me on the show. He turns up and says, Jace, good, glad you're here, you're wrestling. And I was like, what did you say? What? He's like, yeah, go backstage, you meet your opponent, you're competing. I was just like, I was blown away. I'm just like, but a couple of days ago I get a booking, and now I'm wrestling? I was just like, I've only been here a week.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe. I told myself 6 months to be ready again. But it just came back to me so fast. And, I had quite a simple match with a young man and came away victorious. So it was my first win ever, by the way. For whatever that's worth. Yay for me. And it was about that day, Maximo Jr. won the Academy Championship at that same show, and I congratulated him, congratulated everybody on the match, and continued my duties as a locker room leader to keep all the boys in check and make sure everybody was okay and happy, and, life was good. And it was probably 6 weeks into my training where there were rumours floating around that I was getting the next title match. And I thought, cool, that'd be well good. What a great opportunity to show, how good the champion is. Because I just thought, I was back to it by that point. I was bumping fine again, and I was hitting the ropes fine, and my headlocks, my tackles, my, suplexes, my slams, all the basic stuff that I do in my matches now. I was doing fine. I got it. I was wrestling again. Life was good. Only took 6 weeks, and I just thought, what a great opportunity to wrestle the champion. That would be so nice. I'll get to show off how I can make him look like $1 million, make him do this, make him do that. I thought I could really, really show this guy off to look really, really good. That would be a great opportunity. I then find out from the coach, not only am I wrestling him, I'm winning the championship. I was just like,
wow. So how soon, sort of before the show, did you know you were going to be champion? Was this sort of weeks planned in advance, or was this just days or hours, or?
It's probably, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks before.
Wow, so you've got 3 weeks literally before, sort of against the shock of everybody. Clearly, you're at that time. Were you being built up as an underdog? Sort of, no one thought you'd win.
No, I'd done. I was booked to wrestle in Cornwall. By that point, and there was a company in Plymouth. I'd been to see one of their shows, and and Pride were running shows, and I'd been to a lot of these shows to help out with the ring and to say hello to everybody and just to introduce who I was. I was the new guy, and I was, very respectful. And I'd been around and just tried to meet as many guys as I could and introduce myself. And by this point, with the 3 weeks being told I would be champion, I've been doing lots of videos too, lots and lots of videos. That because I wanted to find a way. I kept telling myself, if I can just get my name and face out there, I want as many people to see me as they can. And social media was my, I've become quite a Facebook nuisance, really, because I put a lot of I knew that I needed to get over and I needed to get recognised. The way to do that was to get seen. I told myself in the beginning, if they'll see me, they'll use me. I knew I had something. I just didn't know what it was, and I just told myself, just let them see you. Once they've seen you, it's up to them to make a decision. Whether they like you or they dislike you, they're going to talk about you. And then that's what you want, So lots and lots and lots of Facebook, social media stuff. So by the time I wrestled Maximo, I've been promoting this. I've been promoting this on Facebook, every day. Cutting promos on him, calling him all sorts of names. And I did a week-long countdown, a promo every day in countdown to the actual match itself. It was the biggest match in the history of the Academy at the time. The match was scheduled to be at the dungeon, and that dungeon was not a big place. It's not a big hall. I think we packed something like 55 people in there. And if you've never been there, for those that listen to this that have been there, who remember that show, it was hot that day. It was sweaty, and the heat was through the roof because all that body heat, you cannot fit 55 people in there. But They were so adamant they wanted to see this cocky, new sort of whatever I was. Whether I was just a crappy rookie with a loud mouth, or whether I did have something or what. They just wanted to see what I could do. I think a lot of it was curiosity about who the hell this guy was, because I was not shy at running my mouth at all. And I think a lot of people took it as like I was this disrespectful little git. I think a lot of people were like, is he any good? Like, because, it was a case of like, who is he? And why does he keep talking? And 3 days before the show, Maximo actually broke his wrist and had to pull out of the match. Oh. So, which was, I can't even tell you how my mood dropped, man. My mood had gone from, feeling like $1 million to feeling like about, 50p. And it was really, really upsetting because I really wanted to wrestle him. And I had a whole match set up that I wanted to do and all sorts, that I was really looking forward to wrestling this guy and potentially becoming champion, something I dreamed of since I was 4. So this was like, 23 years of dreaming, like I always wanted to be a wrestling champion. In 23 years, I'd dreamed of the chance of being champion as a wrestler, and I just thought, wow. And then I thought it had been taken away. I thought the champion's gone and injured himself, and now I don't get to wrestle. I was so upset. Like, he was so apologetic, he called me up and said he's so sorry, and, and it was legit too. He went to the hospital, he wasn't lying, he wasn't making it up, it wasn't like he didn't do it deliberately on purpose to avoid wrestling me or anything like that. None of that sort of sort of rubbish. A few people asked me, has he done that deliberately? And I was like, no, guys. I was like, shut up. That's the way it is with wrestling. There's always, there's the truth, and then there's the exaggerated truth, and then there's the blow them out of the water story. You'll find there's always like 10 versions of every story, and it tends to be in wrestling that the truth is normally the one that's the most boring. All he'd done is broke his wrist slipping off the apron or trying something in the ring in practice and training. That was all it was. But, you heard these stories about how he'd sabotaged, the entire brand and all these stupid things that people were saying that weren't true at all. It's a freak accident, he got injured. Well, anyway, it was announced 2 days before the show who my new opponent was going to be. Yeah. Maximo was going to relinquish the title, and I was going to wrestle Danny Walsh, who was a big deal in these parts at that point. I was like, oh, God. I knew I was ready to wrestle, but this guy's been in the game 10 years, and I was like, yeah, I'm not ready for that. And to be honest, looking back, I don't think I was ready. I don't think that I was. I don't think I was ready to compete at that level, to be truthful. But all in all things considered, the match went well. It was very, very tiring because, again, it was hot and he cuts a hell of a pace. And I was in ring shape, but I wasn't in that kind of ring shape.
Yeah.
I really was not, man. I was sucking wind pretty fast. I'm going to be honest. I was blown up fast. I remember coming away from the, coming off the top a couple of times and taking some big bumps and boom, 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 boom. Crowd were hot, and anyway, we did the finish where I cheat and I won the belt, and I rolled backwards. I remember sort of sitting on my knees in the ring and sitting there and thinking, oh, blimey, Christ. You did it? You know, it was like, but I was like, you're in character. Oh my God, I'm the greatest. But the humbling feeling of what I'd achieved was, God, it was insane. I was insane. I remember sitting there and thinking, like, oh my God, like, you're one of those guys you saw on TV. You're like Shawn Michaels. You're like Bret Hart. You're a wrestling champion now. I could not believe it. I was blown away. Like, man, you ask all the boys that were there that day. I grabbed that title and I didn't let it go. I didn't let it go for 398 days. If you ever saw any of my videos and all the guys on social media that used to say, oh, here he goes again, and he's got that belt again, I never put the damn thing down. I never put it down for 398 days. It was like my prized possession. You know, it was...
Wow.
I went up... Go on, mate.
What I was going to say is it's just such an amazing amount of time to hold a title. One of my favourite feuds you were in was with none other than another fantastic performer, another charismatic person, another person I think that potentially is going to go a long way in the Southwest wrestling industry, none other than Vincent Mad Dog Andrews. What's your sort of memories of sort of feuding with him and him as a wrestler? Do you have any sort of comments?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Good thing to pull out the hat. Let me just summarise real quick. Win the belt, go on as champion, everybody gets it, I'm champion. Time goes on and I start wrestling everybody in the academy, okay? So the deal was that I'd wrestle all the guys and you know, see which ones were good and give everybody an opportunity and et cetera, et cetera. He was one of my favourite guys to wrestle because when he had the same thing I had when he first turned up. He had this attitude of like, I really, really, really want to be a good wrestler and I don't care what you think. Now, that's good because it means you're prepared to work, to put the time in, put the effort in, and you really don't give a monkey's what other people think. You know that if you work hard and you listen, that you'll achieve it. The problem is when you're new and you have that attitude, you rub a lot of people the wrong way. Now, he's not going to mind me saying this because we've spoken extensively many, many times. He's one of my favourite people and one of the biggest supporters of Vincent Andrews in wrestling. I am. I believe in him. I've told him many times. I say publicly now to anybody that didn't know this that's listening, I do agree with you. He will be a future star if he sticks with his training still and stays with it and, you know, keeps that natural humbleness because he's not, I don't say natural humble, but he's not naturally humble. Naturally, he's a really infuriating guy because, to be honest, he's a bit like me in the sense that he's intense, but how can I word it about Vincent Andrews? He's a really good guy, okay? Puts a lot of effort in, but he speaks of a confidence of the way he is, and that's okay, because he is pretty good, and he's getting there, but it rubs a lot of guys the wrong way. It's the truth. Rubs a lot of guys the wrong way. Guys that think he's being arrogant, think he's talking above his pay grade, they think he's being, you know, this, that, and it's only when you get to know him, you realise he's really, really not. Man, we were drinking one time together and we were in the bar in Torquay, the ice bar, and the coach was there and everybody was around. And I think he just said something to me like, he goes, you listen to me, Mr. King. He said, there's something along these lines. He said, you know, you keep that belt shiny for me, won't you? He said, because my time's coming. And of course I had to respond. And then he responded. And then I responded. And man, I'm not kidding. We're meant to be out drinking, all the guys. For 20 minutes, we were promoing in the middle of the bar, back and forth to each other, man. It was one of my favourite experiences I've ever had. Literally, people were stopping and looking like, are these guys okay? like we were literally like firing them off at each other, man. Sometimes we were shouting, sometimes we were like right in each other's face. 20 minutes just stood there. I've never done that with anyone. We didn't care what anybody thought. We didn't care if people were walking past. Like, we're in the middle of a bar too. Like, just in the middle of right by the bar, just stood there. We weren't moving for anybody. You know, we weren't letting anybody past. We didn't care, man. We had a great time. He's a guy I really like.
That's awesome,
I like
man.
his work, I appreciate him. You know, I agree. You said it right. He's a guy that's going to go far. I just hope that he stays committed and makes the right choices and just knows when to talk and when to listen. Is his thing, because I would hope that he doesn't rub too many guys the wrong way. I hope that he doesn't, because I like him. He's a good guy. He's a good performer. I had a match with him in Plymouth, which went pretty well. But I will remind him, because no doubt he will listen to this at some point. I will remind him, that I won that one. So that's 1-0 to me. So as long as he knows that, I'm 1 up so far.
No, as I said, what we're going to do before sort of we go to round up this interview tonight, just going to go to a couple of key parts, a couple of last key questions, if that's all right with you, Jason, if your time allows.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, a couple of key things. So we're now going to get sort of to the elephant in the room. So you've obviously this past Saturday, unfortunately, you did lose the title belt. Much against the run of play, as far as I could tell, a feud was building sort of back in Topsham with a brand new stable that are coming to the Federation, which we'll get to later. But when did you find out you were going to lose? And clearly, based on what I saw on Saturday, it looks like Jason King has left LEP, if I'm not mistaken, unless there's more to it.
So anybody that was in attendance Saturday, as you say, we'll see when Maximo left the ring. I had a moment and I hugged the referee and asked John and I kissed him and I told him I said I love you. I said thank you for everything. And the announcer, that's Briam. That was I'm going to give you a spoiler here. It's Captain Bobcat who was there on my first ever session. I told him I said thank you for everything. I love you. And I left my my purple dress that I wear around my neck when I wear my purple ring gear. I left it in the ring and I kissed the mat goodbye and I said to all the fans, I hugged all the kids and thanked everybody and I bowed and I said my goodbyes and that was, if this is like an exclusive announcement, then I guess that was probably it for me in LEP, yeah, I'll be honest. Unfortunately, as is with the way of wrestling, a lot of people only get to see the 10 and 15 minutes we get to perform. And that's wonderful, because it's really, really nice that that's all they get to see, because I'd much rather they only see that, rather than see anything, that often goes on backstage. A lot of stuff in wrestling that isn't so pleasant as it. But the thing is, would never affect my performance. Any problems that may have occurred would never ever affect how I performed. You can attest you were there that night. If you thought I was off as a performer, I'm sure you would have told me. If you'd have thought I was anything in my time in the ring was off, I'm sure somebody would have pulled me up and said that you. But it never would be. I would never allow what goes on elsewhere to affect my performances, and nor did anybody else in the building that night. It was a good show. It was a good showing from LEP. It was nice. It showed progress, I think, which was a good thing. But yes, it will be the last time, foreseeable future, that you will see me in an LEP ring. It's a shame because they gave me a platform to be Jason King. They gave me the opportunity to do what I love. I will be grateful till I die. Till I can no longer sort of be here. I'll be grateful for them for what they did for me. But in wrestling, there comes a time when I've said it before many times. You've got to be selfish. Not just in wrestling, in life. You've got to be selfish sometimes, and you've got to make the choices that best suit you. And sometimes what you want isn't always going to be what somebody else wants. And I think creatively, and I think that the way that LEP were going and the way I was going were two different things. They were two different, just too different at this time. I had a great year there and a great time. But, and let's not ever forget, no negative words to say. I've got no ill will towards anybody. The black and yellow colours, still got my LEP top. I still respect, what it is that they do and the options that they give people that are breaking into the business. But it just isn't something that I am any attached to any longer.
Okay.
Basically.
What I'm going to do, just to fill people in that weren't at the show, I'm going to go through basically the show quickly, a couple of key parts of how Jason's title defense went and what sort of led to the events that night. So basically the show started with sort of the guy that won the Money in the Bank ladder match, Maximo, at the previous show, came out and said that there was a hint that he was going to cash it in, which for a Devonshire I thought was a really good angle to sort of run. Clearly you're building something for later on, clearly, as the show went on, Maximo then put his number one contendership on against Danny Walsh. Somehow or another came out with a victory. Jason came out, obviously, as a heel. The match was advertised as a TLC match. Unfortunately, due to whatever circumstances, that didn't happen. And then somehow or another, Maximo did come out with a victory, and then Jason went, which was kind of very surprising, considering sort of previously, within the last month, there's been sort of, I thought a feud was building between Jason and some brand new people that are coming into the Federation, so to speak. Jason, so going into it then, really, the legitimate of this, when did you know you were going to lose the belt, if I may ask?
Yeah, so we knew the plan was to run the course of a year because I was the right guy for it at the time, and I was building with that belt and with as a performer. As I was getting better, I was keeping that belt every time I performed, and it made the belt mean something. And in wrestling, I'm personally a big believer in belts and championships, and I get ripped for this sometimes when I tell guys they laugh, and joke about how ridiculous that is. But for me, in an entertainment sport like we do, there's no way to show your appreciation to someone, really. You can pay them more money, I guess, but money doesn't do a lot for me, to be honest. You could double my wage at a show. It's not going to change my lifestyle at all. And it's like, in fact, you could triple my wage for every show I wrestled. It's not going to change my life. It's not. I'm not desperate for that kind of money, so money won't do it for me. What I appreciate is I like championships, and again, it probably stems back from seeing Bret Hart wrestle Shawn Michaels for the WWF Championship. Ever since then, it's been ingrained in me that you want to be the champion because the champion's the best. In a sport like ours, where the nature of the beast is what it is, that's the only way you can. For me, it's like you're given a belt when you are as a thank you, you're the guy.
Yeah.
You're the one that's going to put bums on seats. You're the one that's the best at what he does. That's why you're champion. So for me, it meant a lot to be champion, and I feel like I did all I could do with that belt. So we ran the course of a year. I think the detriment to what I did, was it almost looked like there was nobody that could beat me. and I don't mean that in a shoot style, like nobody could kick my ass. I mean in like a character style. It was almost like the people started to cheer me. There was a smattering at some shows of people and families, and that they would all get behind me, and you'd ignore it, and you'd be like, nah, ignore that. Then the smattering became like, it was like a local John Cena.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that like egotistically. I mean, like, if anybody's been to the show, they can attest to what I'm saying. What I mean is, half the audience were cheering and half were booing, and it was kind of like, oh. And I spoke to the coach about it and the boss, and I said, look, don't call me a heel and don't call me a babyface, don't call me anything.
You were tweener, basically.
Yeah, I said don't label me as anything, let me be Jason King. And what I wanted to do, which I believe I've been doing, and I think reasonably well, is I've been being Jason King. and I told him, I said, I will never change the way I act and perform, so if anybody changes, it's the people. And what that means is, they might start cheering me, they might start booing me. As long as I don't ever change, as long as I don't ever do anything different than I'm doing, my actions remain the same. That way, if I get a massive babyface push, or by being Jason King, I can do something heelish real quick, and everyone go, "Whoa!" And I say, "What? I don't care. I never cared what you thought. What made you think that?" And it puts the onus back on the people. You know what I mean? So I think that was a lot of that nature of I could do. The idea was that the character could be either, and I think that way, if a heel beat me, you'd get your sympathy, like, oh no, and he'd get major nuclear heat, hopefully. And if a babyface beat me, the idea was he'd get a humongous, pop. And I think it worked. I mean, you were at the show. The idea was to have, we needed a decent storyline for the cash-in, and the Jack Union thing, the history of Jack Union being Maximo's tag partner, was pretty cool. I thought it was pretty cool. Maxwell hit the 619, drops the dime, boom. And also his reaction, was pretty cool, I felt, because I think it meant something to him. Winning the belt, it felt to me, and it looked like, it felt to him like, I made it. I'm back on top, and the people seem to like it. I mean, you were there. What did you think?
I thought it was a fantastic way to sort of end the show, really. Like, the show was action-packed. Clearly, to have your match, clearly no one thought you were going to lose. And the fact that the storyline, the whole show had been building, really. What I would say about LEP, in terms of Southwest Wrestling promotions, with all the other ones we can go into quickly before this, is LEP have got one thing that I think none of them have got. The storylines they're currently running, you've obviously been a performer there, are currently a million miles ahead of anything else I've seen sort of in the Southwest. I've been here sort of now for over 15 years watching wrestling on and off. And LEP storylines are just, they're miles ahead, really, as we can go into some of them, as you said. But I thought sort of, for a way for you, it was such a good way to end the show. It was exciting, it was a cash-in. The biggest thing that shocked me of all was the fact that Jason obviously lost the belt, which was just a massive shock, really. It's almost going on the same scale as when the first time Goldberg lost, if that makes sense. I think it's similar level to that, with that sort of insult. Just to advise what Jason had to follow up. Jason, basically, there's a long-term angle going within the promotion at the moment called Dead Man's Hand, and this angle's sort of been going on since May. What it is, very, very dark. I will put a link on the Facebook page. And they come out with various quotes and stuff. They've been teasing they're coming. They take over the PA as well during shows, which is pretty dark. And the last few shows, they've been coming out sort of with baseball bats, intimidating the crowd, doing stuff like that. A really, really good angle. I think sort of for Jason to come in and try and sort of, after that, when the crowd are sort of shaken up anyway, it was a real good way to sort of end the night, really. How did you sort of feel following up sort of, clearly that promotion at the moment, there's a lot of stuff going on, isn't there, at the moment?
I really liked. I'm a fan of the way it's going, the Dead Man's Hand stuff. Yeah. I really like how it is. I think it's done really well, and I really, really, really hope, I really hope it doesn't get messed up and spoiled. Because right now, I can guarantee you that right now, there's a lot of noise about it, because I get people messaging me all the time asking me if I'm in the Dead Man's Hand or if I'm something to do. They've never attacked you, Jason King. I'm like, well, thank Christ, there's 6 of them and one of me. So let's be thankful they've never attacked me. It's not, it's not tempt fate. I get people, it's one of these ones where I can guarantee you that none of us, I guarantee, okay, live on this podcast, that nobody knows who's in the Dead Man's Hand. Because I hear people saying, oh, I think it's this guy. I saw this guy. And I'm like, he was with me backstage. I saw him. One guy told me, they said, the first one was, it's Vincent Andrews. And then Vincent Andrews got attacked. Then somebody told me it was, who was the next one? They said it was, lots of them. They said it was T.C. Harris. And I said, T.C. Harris wrestled a match and then went home. I watched him leave the arena. I watched him leave. I watched him drive in his car away. People will say, it's this guy and I saw that guy. I'm like, you don't have a clue. Like, you don't know who it is. My advice to anyone trying to figure out the Dead Man's Hand, I mean, they attacked JP. They attacked a 16-year-old boy. I bet people thought he was in it. It's one of those things where my advice is keep watching, because I really believe, assuming that, all things considered, I think it's going to go real well. I think that's a real good angle, and it's really well protected. And didn't someone say that they gave Maximo a warning? Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that on that page?
Continually, a lot of this is done through social media, and what's unique about this gimmick is they do speak in riddles, and when they come to a show, they don't just turn up through the entranceway, they come through the main entrance of the building, and then they leave straight away as well, which is the way the gimmick's protected is fantastic. And the way that the promos are, there's clearly at the moment nothing else in wrestling like this. And I think LEP, clearly this for me, in all my years watching wrestling, one way they can make a lot of money if it's done right. I just hope that clearly, no matter how much you guess and how much you try and think, I've got a rough idea where I think it's going to go. I won't sort of spoil that on the air. I'm probably going to be wrong anyway.
Spoil it afterwards.
Yeah, I personally think that it's a great way the product really is going. It's just a shame really that Jason King isn't involved, because clearly back in September, before unfortunately your time in APW come to an end, it looked like you were building a feud. They messaged you on Facebook. You were coming back at them. I really thought a Jason King sort of almost in the middle of it all could have been fantastic to watch.
Don't ever, never say never in wrestling. As it stands right now, I shan't be back working for LEP for a little while. But But timing is everything in wrestling. Timing is... So, just because right now there's no immediate plans to return, you can never say never. You never know. You never ever know. Who's to say that, just don't ever think that you know it, because if we do our job correctly, then we'll make it so that it's the last thing you expect is what occurs. So if the last thing you expect is Jason King rolling up to challenge the Dead Man's Hand, then maybe that's exactly what's going to happen. You know what I mean? So don't ever, don't worry. Don't wipe me out yet. Don't work me out yet.
No, it's great to hear. And I think sort of what I would say, last thing on this angle, is clearly anybody that hasn't seen it that might be interested in going to see wrestling, go and see an LEPW show. Seriously, you're not going to see anything like this. There's nothing else currently in wrestling, WWE, TNA, anything like this. The closest way I can compare this, it's almost a cross between TNA's Aces and Eights last year and the Ministry of Darkness. And if you really want to be disturbed, go on the Facebook page and look at the video they posted and stuff like that. And just the way the whole way it's scripted, the whole way it's been worded, the whole way it's been worked, it's just genius, really, because it turns all over the place. But going on forward into more positive subject now, clearly we've got a couple new promotions launching in X, so I wonder if you're going to be part of them. One of them is Big League Wrestling, that have booked MVP, Mr. Anderson, PJ Black as well. Is that something you think you can go on board, maybe?
Well, I'd certainly like to. Yeah, absolutely. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that I'll intend to make contact and let them know who I am. And I'm based in Exeter, so, my thing is you have to travel so far to get, more work. When a company like that opens up in Exeter right on my doorstep, then you better believe that Jason King's will do what he can to, make his presence known and make sure that, I introduce myself and, I welcome it with open arms. It's more work, it's more wrestling, it's more for the fans too, more opportunity to see something different, which is what they all want. So it's only good news. It can only be really, really good news. Big League Wrestling coming to Exeter. But no negative in that whatsoever. None. Nothing negative about that at all.
And what does the future sort of hold from Jason King before we wrap this up this evening? Where do we see Jason King next going?
Okay, so I encourage guys to add me on Facebook. I got a Facebook page, I got a fan page. I'm very active on my social media. I would say if you send me a private message and I don't respond straight away, it's because although I'm very active, I'm also very busy. The moments I do have to post things, I'm probably gone again. But so please don't be disheartened if you try to message me and I'm not there. I'm sure that I'll get back to you as soon as I get an opportunity to, because I love to talk to fans, I love to talk to promoters and talk about business. I love wrestling, so I can talk wrestling. Me and you talk wrestling for days, don't we?
Yeah.
Sometimes we just wrestling. I just love it, man. To talk about everything wrestling related. So you can find me on Facebook. As far as work wise goes, you'll see me in Cornwall, CPW. I'll be there under that banner. They've got something I want. The PWA in Plymouth, they've also got something I want. DWA this weekend, Saturday in Tiverton, certainly a great show. Joe Redmond's there, the number one talent in the history of wrestling in Devon. Joe Redmond, he'll be there.
Should we just tell him who Joe Redmond is, just in case people don't know? So Joe Redmond...
Joe Redmond is Oliver Gray. In
NXT Tag Team Champion with... he used to be Tag Team Champion with Neville, for all the people that listen that don't know Joe Redmond.
He's never Tag Champ, so you in NXT, so you absolutely... He was on TNA at British Boot Camp too. Here's a guy that you got to see this guy work, man. Can he go? What? Well, he's got a work ethic on him, or what, man? Used to be a lumberjack, so he knows a thing or two about work. This guy's he's like a specimen too. You see the shape of the guy, and you think he's big. You stand next to him, or he's he's a monster of a man. Nice guy too. One of those things where. DWA this weekend, I recommend everybody gets down there to Tiverton. Great show. Like I say, Joe Redmond's there. Jason King will be there, which we all like. PJ Jones is there. The Magnums, they'll be there. You've got CPW in Cornwall. You can always see me in Cornwall. The PWA. The two things I want on my agenda. One is those PWA tag team titles with my partner Adam Flint, big time. We've teamed together in LEP, and now we want to team together in PWA. We're making a little bit of a wave there. We intend to become tag team champions. That's our goal. So I'm making that clear to everybody that's listening. And the other thing is, in Cornwall, CPW. Now, I've said it before, and I'm going to make this as clear as I can. I want to be the Cornish Pro Wrestling Trophy champion. I had a go before. The first time I wrestled for that trophy, I got screwed by a referee. The second time, it was a fatal 4-way. I have never had a one-on-one fair contest for the CPW trophy, the Cornish Pro Wrestling trophy, and Jason King, being from Devon, is adamant that he's not just going to win that trophy. When he wins it, he's going to throw it in the river. That's what I'm going to do. I want a one-on-one championship match for the CPW trophy. I'm throwing my name in the hat publicly now. This is not the first time. It cannot be ignored. That's what I want. That's where you can see Jason King. Okay?
That's awesome.
DWA and CPW.
Awesome. We're looking forward to see you there. And I think it's been a really, really interesting interview, Jason. I really appreciate your time this evening. Is there anything else you want to say before we close the show tonight?
Anything else I want to say? How's about this? To anybody that supports me, I say thank you, because if I cut all the crap for a minute, I truly, like I always say, I am so very, very, very humbled that somebody would take their time to spend the money that they earn to support me, to watch me. If you come to watch me, you want to boo me, boo. You want to cheer. Whatever you do, make as much noise as you can. It is your divine right, and I'm the one telling you now. I'm telling you now. Spread this with all your wrestling buddies. It is your divine right to call me anything you want, to talk to me any way you want, to scream at the top of your voice any way you want. If you bought a ticket and paid to see me, then you call me anything you like. You say anything you want. You can be anything you want. Come dressed any way you want. I don't care. But if you expect me to give you 100% in that ring, then you must do the same as a fan. That's what I want to tell the people. All right? That's my message.
Awesome. Yeah, really appreciate your time this evening, Jason. It's been rather fascinating. For people that are listening, they can check out the show on Facebook and SoundCloud and also YouTube. And we hope to have you on the show again soon, Jason, with an update. Is that okay?
Maybe the next time I win another title, you can interview me again.
Sounds great. I'm sure that'll be sooner rather than later. Thank you for your time, Jason.
Always, take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And there you have it. That was episode 33 of SCW, the wrestling podcast, there with George Jones interviewing the one and only UK professional wrestler, Jason King. Big thank you to Jason King for taking the time to be a part of this podcast. Really great to have you on. Hopefully we'll have you again sometime soon. Guys, if you like this interview, please like and subscribe as well. Share the video out. See how much exposure we can get this one. Really happy as well with some of the TNA videos I've been posting this week. Lots and lots of views on them and lots of likes as well. So really appreciate you guys taking the time out there for you, and we'll be following on Bound for Glory, which of course is this Sunday. We'll be giving a predictions video for you, and as well we'll be giving you a results video also, so make sure to check that out on this channel. But you've been watching Steve Chats Wrestling, hashtag SCW, the wrestling channel here on youtube.com. Big thank you to George Jones for doing that interview. Big thank you for Jason King for being on the podcast, and a great podcast as well, I'm sure you'll agree. I'll see you next time here on SCW, the wrestling podcast, for episode 34, which will be conducted very soon. In the meantime, take care, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow on the SoundCloud channel as well, which is SCW The Wrestling Podcast. Why not hit the like button on the Facebook page as well for SCW The Wrestling Podcast, and why not, while you're at it, like Jason King's Facebook page. He's got a Facebook page as well, so hit that like button right now. Take care, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time here on SCW The Wrestling Podcast.